All right, let's talk about the team retrospective. For so many of us, it's that one meeting on the calendar that just feels like a chore. It's this repetitive cycle that never seems to lead to any real change. But what if I told you it could be your team's single most powerful tool for improvement? Okay, let's dive in and figure out how to transform your retrospectives for good.
I mean, this is what we're all aiming for, right? A retrospective shouldn't just be a look back. It should be a launch pad. It's supposed to be the engine of your team's growth, a place where you build real collaboration and trust, not just another meeting to go through the motions.
And there it is. That's the tension. We all know what they should be, but the reality, well, it's often very different. I think we've all sat through those retros that felt pointless or negative or just plain boring. That massive gap between the potential and the reality is exactly what we are going to break down today. So, to fix this thing, we first have to understand what's actually breaking it. We're going to look at the 5 most common traps that turn a potentially powerful meeting into a complete waste of everybody's time. And let's start with the biggest one of all. Okay, this right here is the silent killer of any effective retrospective. It's simple. If your team members are afraid to speak up, afraid of being judged or blamed, or just looking like they don't know something, then you will never, ever get to the heart of any real issue. Honesty is the fuel for improvement, and fear just pokes a giant hole in the gas tank. And you can see the direct cause and effect. On one side, engagement just nosedives and the team completely stagnates. But on the other, we've got the solution. It all starts with creating a judgment-free zone. The facilitator has to lead by example. And hey, if trust is low, using anonymous feedback tools like a digital whiteboard where the sticky notes have no names can be an amazing way to get the ball rolling. Oh, we have all been in this meeting. You know the one. One or two really outspoken people just take up all the oxygen in the room. Their perspective becomes the perspective, and all those valuable, diverse insights from the quieter team members, they're just completely lost. And this doesn't just skew the feedback. It makes other people not even want to try. The fix here is all about simple facilitation techniques. Otherwise, you end up with a completely warped view of reality. Simple things like going around in a round-robin format, asking truly open-ended questions, or even just rotating who facilitates the meeting can make a huge, huge difference in making sure every single voice gets heard. This is when the retrospective just turns into a complaint session. When the entire focus is on what went wrong, who messed up, and just all the negative stuff, the meeting becomes incredibly draining and demotivating. People start to dread it because it just feels like an hour of getting beaten down by negativity. The impact of a blame game is it's toxic. Morale plummets. But the fix for this is surprisingly simple. Just start with what went well. Seriously. Celebrating successes first builds this positive foundation, and it reminds everyone of the team's strengths before you even think about diving into what needs improvement. Okay, this one might be the most frustrating pitfall of them all. The team has a great discussion, they identify some really solid improvements, they write them all down, and then nothing happens. When action items are just empty promises, the team learns really fast that the retro is all talk, and they lose all trust in the process. And that's exactly why trust erodes. You end up talking about the exact same problems sprint after sprint after sprint. The solution is structure. Every single action item needs a clear owner and a way to track its progress. Without that, it's not a plan, it's just a wish list. Look, we're all human. We crave a little bit of novelty. When you run the exact same what went well, what didn't retrospective every 2 weeks, month after month, people's brains just switch off. They go into autopilot, they give the same generic answers, and the meeting becomes this stale, boring routine instead of a source of fresh insight. The result? It's the slow death of creativity. So the solution is actually pretty simple. Mix it up. Try a new format. Use a visual metaphor. Turn it into a game. Do anything to get people thinking in a different way. Keeping the process fresh is how you keep the insights fresh. Okay, we've diagnosed the 5 biggest problems. Now, let's switch gears and start building our toolkit. We're talking concrete, actionable best practices that you can literally start using in your very next retrospective to shut down those pitfalls. So, to fight that monotony, here are 3 classic formats. Start, stop, continue is super simple and action-oriented. Mad, sad, glad focuses more on the emotional journey of the sprint, which can uncover totally different kinds of issues. And the sailboat is a great visual metaphor, using anchors for things that are slowing you down and wind for things pushing you forward. Why not try one of these in your next retro? And to fight those empty promises, the SMART framework is going to be your best friend. Instead of a vague goal like improve communication, you get specific. Who is going to do what? How will we measure success? Is this even achievable right now? This is what turns a fuzzy idea into a real, concrete commitment. Now, having a toolkit is one thing, but making these practices actually stick, that requires a guide. And this is where the role of the facilitator, who is often the Scrum Master, becomes absolutely critical. They are the guardian of the entire process. A great facilitator isn't the boss of the meeting, they are its servant. Their job is to stay neutral, to make sure it's a safe and balanced conversation. They need to be actively looking out for those pitfalls we talked about, like a dominating voice or the meeting sliding into a blame game. And so importantly, they should be asking the team for feedback on the retrospective itself to constantly make it better. So when you boil it all down, it comes to just fundamental mindset shift. A successful retrospective isn't about pointing fingers or trying to create a perfect, mistake-free process. It's about building a resilient team culture where every experience, good or bad, becomes a valuable lesson. It's a laboratory for learning, not a courtroom for judgment. And that brings us to the end. But the real test is always what happens next. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Looking back at everything we've just covered, what is the one single practice, that one small change, that you will introduce in your team's very next retrospective to make it better? Because that's where real change always begins.